Volunteering changes your life. You have certain ideas, and we all get caught up in the daily rush to try and achieve this, that and the other in our lives. But when you take the time to sit back and think how other people cope, and you see how other people cope, and you know, each of us has a strength within us that allows us to influence other people. Everyone has a strength, and if you use that strength to help someone else, and you see the effect that that has on people, it gives you even more strength, and it helps you to cope with any issues that you have.
My cousin introduced me to this girl who was in a wheelchair, and I had never met anybody, as I said earlier, who had been in a wheelchair. He asked me to ask her up to dance, and I wasn't too sure what to do. I was terrified because I didn't know, do you hold her hand, do you hold the arms of the wheelchair, do you stand behind the wheelchair? I mean, I just didn't know what I should do. She just started laughing. It was kind of at that moment then I began to realise that some of those preconceived fears I had were not justified.
It's not so much about feeling good about getting out and volunteering, but it's what you get from it, which is a lot more than you can even describe to somebody who's not involved in it or who doesn't see it firsthand.
About 2.5 years ago, my daughter was diagnosed with leukemia, and we fought a pretty hard battle for about 9 months. I asked, is there a children's hospice here in Ireland, that could help, and I was astonished, absolutely astonished to find that the Republic doesn't have a children's hospice.
If I don't go up on a Sunday is primarily the day I help out. If I'm not there on a Sunday, I feel like I've missed out on something.
When you start volunteering, you can't imagine not volunteering. I can't imagine stopping doing the work with Dublin Simon.
To me, it's like having a second family, albeit a pretty large and dysfunctional second family.
I always wanted to bring a child from Chernobyl into my home. It's just something that I always wanted to do. So when the opportunity arose and I had the space in my home to do it, I volunteered.
It helps keeps Beth's memory alive. It keeps me feeling that there's a bit of her still around, in that society, that people around me acknowledge her. And then also there's a lot of companionship with the people who would then volunteer and put some of themselves on the line alongside me.
It makes me feel whole, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. I get to do something I really, really love with people that I classify as really, really good friends.
You're giving something that other people had done for me when I was a young person, or indeed for my kids. So you're giving something back, I suppose.
I don't ever stop to think about it in terms of how it impacts my life or what I'm missing out on because I spend all this time with the club.
I think the highlight for me was when we visited the school and the headmaster took us into the classroom and introduced us to the children. The children were all there working away on these laptops, happy faces, everybody was really pleased.
It's during the really bad snow in Dublin just there in January when it was down to -10. The super-run volunteers and the homeless people seemed to be the only people out in the streets that evening. We got pretty much everybody housed, so that felt like a good night.
The Intel Matching Grant Programme is a scheme where the Intel Foundation will fund every volunteer hour donated to a recipient organisation with $10.
The hours that Intel match have a huge benefit to organisations such as Dublin Simon, who say for €2,000 can get somebody a shelter for 50 nights.
I really like volunteering at Intel because there's a lot of enthusiasm, there's a lot of encouragement to volunteer here, and if you can push together in the same direction, they can often come up with some great ideas about how to fundraise, about how to contribute in unique ways.
It's changed my life, I suppose, because it's changed Ben's life, my son's life. He's like an only child, so now he's more aware that there's children less fortunate than him in the world. He's more appreciative of what he has.
I love the sense of shared purpose that everybody has.
enthusiastic, empowered, enlightened. One word, I suppose it's enthusiasm. It's enthusiastic.